Today is part 2 in our exclusive San Carlos TV expose on David Walker. In part 1, we showed you clearly how David Walker lied about curing his own cancer and his ability to cure cancer in others. Today in part 2, we're going to show you how he lured unsuspecting Europeans to his clinic here in San Carlos, Mexico. Today is part 2, the Bulgarian connection. Now, David Walker's clinic has been located here in San Carlos since 2002 in various spots all over town. Currently in 2011, the cancer clinic sits directly behind me at the first Pemex gas station as you drive into town. But the truth is, I never paid any attention whatsoever to this clinic until 2010, when it was brought to my attention that there were a whole bunch of Bulgarians with late-stage cancers coming here for treatment and literally dropping dead all over the state of Sonora. They died in hospitals in Guaymas and Hermosillo, and one Walker patient passed away at the Hermosillo International Airport, apparently in a desperate attempt to return to their homeland to die among family and friends. It was 9 Bulgarians in all who died while undergoing treatment at Walker's clinic.
Empecé como secretaria recepcionista y llegué en 30 días a ser la gerenta de ahí de la clínica. Recibía toda la correspondencia, traductora del doctor mexicano y de Walker. En el tiempo que yo estuve y que me duele mucho, se murieron aquí en San Carlos, en el tiempo que yo estuve trabajando, como 7 personas. En mis años de mi profesión en los hospitales y mi conocimiento, yo vi algo de negligencia en esa clínica, y más con Nashiana. Me partió totalmente el alma cuando ella falleció. Muy mal. Muy mal.
Even Walker's oncologist Dustin Osborne remembers Bulgaria being mentioned during his post-chemo follow-ups. Do you remember when you were made aware of the fact that he was claiming that he cured his own cancer and that he could cure cancer?
He had, I can't give you details, but he had started to claim that he had a different insight into cancer and cures. He actually brought some material in for me and asked me to take a look at it, something about someone that he knew of in Bulgaria.
Susan Kennelly is a nurse and wife of a local doctor. She had many doubts about Walker's clinic, but had no idea so many Bulgarians were showing up in San Carlos. That is, until she received a phone call from a hospital in Guaymas.
October 21st, 2009, we received a frantic phone call from the Pavillon Hospital from a nurse saying that the ambulance from Rescate here in San Carlos had brought them a patient, a young boy who was in extremely critical condition.
Estaba consciente y su imagen, su cara era de dolor completamente, un dolor insoportable y un desespero. Cuando ya entró en paro respiratorio, el doctor hizo lo que pudo con él. Se sacó, pero ya el niño realmente, la mamá desvanecida de rodillas en su cama, pidiéndonos que lo salváramos. Llorando su mamá, pero ya era algo que ya no se podía hacer nada.
We did find out within a short amount of time, within an hour, that the boy had died. He was 11 years old. This boy was dropped off at the hospital with no medical notes, with no phone call, and no doctor ever went to the hospital to give them any directions. He was dying and he was dumped at the hospital in Guaymas.
So it would appear that David Walker's very first patient of what would turn out to be many from Bulgaria, Stelyazhna Ivanov, was receiving treatments. But where was his doctor, David Walker?
Mr. Walker was actually over in Bulgaria. He was promoting his services over in Bulgaria. So this child was over here getting his treatment, and this man wasn't even in Mexico.
It was the 21st of October, 2009. As Ivanov lay dying at Pabellon Guadalupe Hospital in Guaymas, thousands of miles from his home and the rest of his family, David Walker was apparently still in Bulgaria, promoting the San Carlos Cancer Clinic on TV.
Dr. David Walker е мой гост днес. Здравейте, добре дошли. Welcome.
But this time he told a slightly different version of his cancer story.
In 1993, I was diagnosed with a multiple complex cancer case. I had 3 surgeries.
Remember his YouTube video? Let's go back and take another quick look at that.
My appendix had blown up. After 11 hours of surgery for an appendectomy, I found out just how extensive the damage was.
So on Bulgarian TV, the story is way different. He is diagnosed with a multiple complex cancer case, no exploded emergency appendectomy. A bit less drama, but just hold on, because the real melodrama is about to begin. Not only was the story different, but now Walker had a Bulgarian woman by the name of Jana Ivanova with him. Jana claimed she had been cured of her cancer at Walker's San Carlos clinic, and in a tear-jerking story broadcast live on a Bulgarian TV charity fundraising event to send patients to Mexico, she describes how Walker saved her life. The question is, did Jana tell the truth, or perhaps she had a vested interest in getting patients to come to Walker's Mexico clinic? It was the beginning of 2010, and business was booming at BioResMed. Walker's promo tour in Bulgaria was certainly paying off. One patient was an American, though. Her name was Judy Sullivan. Judy was born in Bulgaria, but living in Chicago. Her doctors had given her a break from her chemotherapy, and she took the time off to visit relatives back in Bulgaria. Coincidentally, she just happened to be in Bulgaria at the very same time Walker was promoting his cancer clinic there.
There was a family in Chicago who called us on our home phone and said, will you please get involved? My wife was part of this. He said that he could cure her.
This is Robert Sullivan, then?
Yes, Mr. Sullivan.
Did you meet Judy Sullivan the time that you worked for your day?
Sí, sí la conocí desde que recibimos su correspondencia. Conocí a su esposo cuando la trajo. Yo fui, lo llevé de compras, lo llevé a la casa. Era una persona muy entusiasta. Ella tenía fe, ¿no?, en vivir más.
Judy had been diagnosed with stage 4 inoperable colon cancer and came to San Carlos in March for what she hoped and prayed would be a life-saving treatment from David Walker. Judy had high hopes for a cure that would have given her the chance to watch her grandchildren grow up, and had been convinced by Jana Ivanova that Walker would save her life, just like he had saved hers. It was actually Judy Sullivan's husband, Robert, who contacted Susan Kennelly for help after Judy went into critical condition under Walker's care, and Sullivan's interactions with Walker helped shed a tremendous amount of light on the inner workings of the Walker Cancer Clinic. Robert Sullivan believed Jana Ivanova was a ringer and that she never had cancer to begin with. He is convinced she was on Walker's payroll and got a commission for convincing Judy to come to Mexico.
We were given her number. My wife called her. From the time my wife first called her, probably 3 to 4 times a week, this woman called my wife asking her if she made up her mind, and I said I wanted to go to meet this person.
So she kind of lobbied you to take this treatment then?
Oh, absolutely she did. We met with her in a Starbucks on the north side of Chicago. I asked her what if she could produce any records showing that she had stage 3 or 4 colon cancer. She said no. She couldn't give me her doctor's name because she told me she didn't want me to get the doctors in trouble if I was to call them.
So in your opinion, basically she formulated that story.
Exactly right. One other thing, she told me it would be about $20,000 to $30,000 that we'd have to send to Dr. Walker. I told her I couldn't make that kind of payment, and she said, well, you can take out a credit card. Anybody can get a credit card. So they were all that they were interested in was in the money.
And lo and behold, it would appear Robert Sullivan's instincts about Jana Ivanova were correct. According to Maria Munoz, Jana did receive money from Walker for providing patients from Bulgaria.
Andábamos archivando y arreglando los papeles y no me acuerdo si fue cuando nos cambiamos o yo encontré el documento archivando donde a la señora esta Jana Ivanova le daban un porcentaje de cada persona que ella mandaba para tratamiento con David.
Entonces ella fue pagado para conseguir pacientes.
Parece que era como una referencia, un referral, como una referencia, algo así. Me acuerdo que la carta decía, no me acuerdo exactamente, que se había recibido, creo que eran $2,000 o $4,000, no me acuerdo, pero entonces yo no sé, me sentí mal.
For how many years do you have to spin a lie before it becomes readily regarded as the truth? All over the internet, you will find the same lies retold time and time again regarding David Walker's story. There are literally dozens of websites out there that simply take Walker's claim that he cured his own cancer as the God's honest truth. One article in particular is referenced on at least a half a dozen different websites, written by a woman named Teresa Solaski. Her bio is often right on the same page as the article on Walker. It states, and I quote, she is an award-winning journalist, which gives the article more credibility, doesn't it? An award-winning journalist, wow. This article must be truthful and fact-checked, right? In the article, Solaski compares Walker's infamous 14% mortality rate to traditional chemo's supposed 96% mortality rate, inferring that Walker's treatment has a higher chance of success. Other sites such as this one reported that Walker had an 86% success rate and that he had been turned into the Federal Trade Commission by an outraged oncologist who was losing money because of Walker's cure. So Walker spins the FTC reports to these award-winning journalists and writers, and nobody bothers to fact-check any of it. I suspect she didn't have time to check the facts. She just wanted to believe, like so many others. Such as the case in point of Lee Forston. Lee is a cancer survivor and has a new book coming out in May of this calendar year, 2011, called Embrace, Release, and Heal. On her home bio, written by a doctor, it states that after her journey through the land of cancer, Lee has returned a very wise woman. So wise, in fact, that she deemed it totally unnecessary to fact-check a man who she knows absolutely nothing about. Here is the Walker bio on Ms. Forston's site, which states, and we quote, Dr. David Walker was working as a biophysicist in the pharmaceutical industry when he was diagnosed with colon cancer. Lee, I got bad news for you. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Court documents show that at the time of his diagnosis of colon cancer, David was not a biophysicist, but in fact only had a high school education. It also turns out that he was not in the pharmaceutical industry, but after he became a self-proclaimed cancer guru, he was an associate of Manitech, a company that sells nutritional supplements through a multi-level marketing arrangement. Basically a pyramid marketing company, kind of like the Amway of nutritional supplements. And it turns out that a woman who signed up Walker as a Manitech associate, Lori Stover, testified against David to the FTC. Over the course of a year and a half, Ms. Stover traveled all over the United States with David Walker promoting Manitech products. Her testimony is truly fascinating, and if you take the time to read it, like an award-winning journalist might, you would find that David has always had a problem with the truth and loved to dress up and play doctor, especially with many of his Amish clientele. Here is Stover's direct testimony.
Walker told me that about 10% of the people he sold his cancer treatment program to are Amish and that he had been working with them for a long time.
This bit of testimony by Stover is truly disturbing.
At one of the first meetings I went to with Walker, people from the Amish community came from all around the area, and one small group came from Kentucky. The meeting was held in Indiana. While at the meeting in Indiana, I took a break from talking with people and walked around. I opened a bedroom or kitchen door, and inside there was a woman who was bare from the waist up. Walker had plastic gloves on and was palpitating her breasts and back. While Walker was doing this, he was making comments about the tumors he was feeling, stating the size and shape of the tumors. He also made comments as to their size and shape compared to previous measurements. At many of the meetings, Walker would introduce me as a nutritional expert. I repeatedly told him not to do that because I am not a nutritional expert. Walker mentioned that he was not a doctor in the meetings, but during the question period, if someone referred to him as a doctor, he would not correct them. I told them that failure to do so was fraud. I can't remember an instance where Walker ever corrected someone who referred to him as a doctor.
You all know the story by now. Lee Forston goes on to spew the same BS so many others have online about the Walker story. Lee refused to take my phone call, but she did return one of my emails, and she said she had interviewed 3 patients Walker had cured of cancer. I wonder if one of them went by the name of Juliet Ivanova. Back in the day when David was promoting his CWAT cancer treatment, he used to sell an apparatus called a molecular enhancer. One deposition is particularly disturbing. On May 15th of 2001, David sold what he called a molecular enhancer to Dennis Lensgrave. Lensgrave had found out about Walker via Manitech, the nutritional supply company that Walker was an associate of. Walker visited Lensgrave at his house and gave him the hard sell, convincing Lensgrave that his molecular enhancer could cure Lensgrave's granddaughter of AML leukemia. When the molecular enhancer treatment did not work, Lensgrave asked for his money back, but all he got back from Walker were emails condemning traditional cancer treatments and a refusal to return money for the molecular enhancer that was sold. Walker also tried to convince Lensgrave to stop his granddaughter's doctors from giving her a bone marrow transplant. This device was a big part of the treatments that Walker used to use back in the day. But when I asked David about it, he was a bit tight-lipped on the subject. Can you talk to me about a molecular enhancer? A lot of the complaints that I read in the FTC were about molecular enhancers. Is that a molecular enhancer? What is a molecular enhancer, and do you guys still use it?
How much time do you have?
I got time. How much time you got?
We're already 4 minutes
okay,
past.
you got a patient coming.
No, I don't. The doctors have patients.
Okay.
We haven't used that.
You don't use that here in Mexico.
Well, we haven't used it in a while. We used to.
You used to use it.
And the benefits of that are scientifically provable as well.
Court documents confirm that Walker sold Dennis Lensgrave his granddaughter's molecular enhancer for $1,600. I was able to track down the maker of the molecular enhancer. His name is Dan Dial, and he still produces the machines to this day, but they were not produced as a treatment for cancer. And when he found out that Walker was overcharging consumers, he forbid him from continuing to sell them. He told me via phone conversations and emails that Walker had violated the agreement between them. Back then, Dial sold his molecular enhancer at a wholesale cost of $480. And those who resold the machines were only allowed to mark them up $100. That means David Walker made over $1,000 selling this device to a little girl's grandfather, claiming it could cure her leukemia. Did you make money treating people with cancer? Was your business good?
Not much. No. For the first 15 years, I did it for next to nothing. There's no money in it. I have never taken a paycheck out of here. I'm not even on the payroll. You can check all of our records. You can go to anything. You can go to SAT. You can check everything.
How much money did you end up paying, Walker?
Just under $17,000 for 5 weeks, 4.5 weeks. He told me part of it had to go to rent, but still, it all went through his bank accounts. He has a bank in Phoenix, Arizona.
Did David Walker make money treating people at this cancer clinic in Mexico?
Claro que sí. A cada persona que viene por su tratamiento, mínimo, por cada 6 semanas, son como $32,000 o $30,000.
¿Y cómo sabes que ellos pagan el señor Walker?
Porque yo tenía acceso a todos los archivos confidenciales. Una vez que fui a Tucson, porque yo tengo una propiedad ahí, fui y me pidió que por favor le cambiara un cheque de $20,000 que estaba a nombre de él. Y tontamente, yo soy una persona que después me puse a pensar, iba con una amiga, ¿cómo traigo este dinero si legalmente tú nomás puedes pasar, ¿qué? 10,000. Después del tiempo me puse a pensar, bueno, yo, ¿cómo lo hice? No sé él cómo...
¿Y él te pidió para traer el dinero a México?
Sí.
¿Él te pidió eso?
Sí.
Lo hiciste un gran favor.
Pues sí, pero no sé en qué... Cuando estaba yo trabajando ahí todavía no veía las cosas como eran.
Not only does Walker claim he has made no money from his cancer clinic, he told me the 2 Bulgarian children who came here were treated for free.
These kids are advanced, and there's not much hope for it. And I can't charge you for something I don't think is going to work. And I treated them for free at my expense.
Which patients were that you treated for free then?
The kids.
Do you remember their names?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell me their names?
No, I can't.
And the 2 children you treated for free?
Yes.
Okay. An email I received from Valia Kircho Stamchev, the father of one of the children, and a community forum in Bulgaria that was used to help raise money to send the children here would suggest otherwise. Valia stated to me they'd paid Walker a great deal of money, and the forum states an initial $12,000 was wired to Walker prior to their arrival.
Where does it end? We are here. We are working under all of the laws. In fact, I've probably, as the clinic, we follow the regulations from the Department of Health better than any other doctor, medical doctor, Mexican medical doctor does, to the letter, to the letter.
Another bold Walker statement. Let's go back to Judy Sullivan's case and find out if that statement is true, and if David Walker really followed the letter of the law here in Mexico. And how did Judy Sullivan's treatment turn out for her?
He also told me that when my wife was in really in bad pain, he told me he was unable to get the same pain meds there that we received here, and that if I wanted to get the pain meds to her, if I could get them to Phoenix, he'd get them across the line. So on the night of March 3rd, I finally got this Skype thing working. So it was the first time I saw my wife, and the day I left, and she was sitting up like I am right now, but she kept going over to the side. I said, "Sit still, I can't see it." She said, "Oh, I'm really in a lot of pain." She said, "I can't talk now, I'll talk tomorrow."
This email from David Walker on March 2nd to Bob Sullivan confirms that Walker knew Judy was in a lot of pain. Maria Muñoz also confirmed Judy's untreated pain and discomfort.
Pero al último sí me acuerdo que ella estaba en muchísimo dolor, no podía ni pararse del sofá.
The following morning, I called Walker's office and spoke to his secretary. She told me that she didn't come in today. We had to take her to the hospital last night. I said, "What do you mean you had to take her?" She wasn't taking her medication, so therefore we had to take her to the hospital in Hermosillo. I called the hospital and spoke to a Dr. Tora Blanca. If she would have waited only a few more hours, she would have been dead.
Pues yo le mencioné no me acuerdo si fue al Walker o al Ortega, que le dije que Judy estaba con bastante dolor, y parece que mencionó que no se estaba tomando su tratamiento adecuadamente, algo así.
Dr. Walker had told my wife that she had a urinary tract infection. That was causing a lot of pain. Well, when my wife got to the hospital in Hermosillo, she'd never had a bladder infection. It was because the cancer was devouring her spine.
Walker and his doctor on staff, Rodolfo Ortega, diagnosed Judy's pain as coming from a bladder infection. Or that is what Judy and her husband Robert were led to believe anyway. It also stated in the email that her live blood analysis looked very positive, whatever the hell that means. By the way, live blood analysis, according to Wikipedia, is a pseudoscientific, bogus, and fraudulent medical test. David Walker uses the words live blood analysis quite often. It seems to be part of his scientific mumbo-jumbo, but the bottom line was, in David Walker terms, Judy was doing pretty good. A sworn statement from Judy just before she died also confirmed that Walker gave her at least 3 injections for pain. David Walker himself tells Robert Sullivan that he gave Judy an injection of tramadol for pain in his email.
Yes, and I remember the nephew coming to the clinic saying that she was in terrible pain. And one night, he did call me really late and told me that she was just miserable. And I advised him to please call David. I remember the next day, I think I stopped by her house to make sure if they were okay or they need to go to the store. And the nephew mentioned to me that she felt a little, that she went to sleep that night because David came and gave her a shot for her pain.
Smuggling drugs and money across the border, giving injections to people when you're not a doctor, so much for the letter of the law. David himself told me he was not allowed to give anyone injections in our interview. I suppose he was just covering his ass. You, as a non-doctor American, are not allowed to give any injections or IVs. And so you would say, no, you haven't given any injections or IVs to anybody?
No,
Never.
I can't. Never.
The next morning, Judy was rushed to San Jose Hospital in Hermosillo. She was in critical condition. Judy Sullivan was not the only patient who suffered under the care of David Walker, given false hope and horrible treatment at the end of her life. Maria Muñoz tells the sad story of a woman named Nashiana and her last days of life under the care of David Walker.
Y como la 10ª semana que ella estuvo aquí por su tratamiento, yo noté que sus piernas estaban muy hinchadas y yo le dije al doctor Ortega, le dije, Shnashana tiene las piernas muy, muy hinchadas. Y me dijo, no, no, es parte del tratamiento que retienen mucha agua, pero toda una semana. Y el lunes que fui a trabajar, trajeron a Shnashana a la clínica y ella ya estaba muy mal. Yo me fui de mi escritorio a donde las atendían y Shnashana estaba sin oxígeno. El otro doctor mexicano, el Ortega, estaba en su escritorio y Shnashana, y simplemente por compasión, que la estuviera consolando o no sé, no tenían el oxígeno puesto. Estaba ya casi morada, sentada en una silla, casi cayéndose. Eso me duele, siempre lo recordaré. Le hablaron a la ambulancia para que la transfiriera. La mandaron de Hermosillo, creo le mandaron sola, y falleció ella allá en Hermosillo. Y creo que alguien tiene que parar todo esto, es que no es justo, porque ahora es Shnashana, mañana puede ser la madre de alguien, de otra persona, una hermana. Que si ellos van a fallecer o no tienen otra opción, que fallezcan dignamente en su país con su gente. A mí la gente me ha dicho, Maru, pero es que hay muchas clínicas alternativas, que nadie los trae a fuerza. Bueno, a mí no me interesa otros estados, a mí me interesa donde yo vivo y lo que yo viví.
There seems to be a pattern here. When David realizes that a patient of his is close to death, he simply calls the local Rescate ambulance service and has them shipped off to hospital, leaving the family with the final insult of more medical bills and then dealing with the body of their loved one having to be shipped back home. How long will this continue to go on here in San Carlos? That's anyone's guess. David Walker has been forbidden to consult with cancer patients in the United States, but it would appear in Mexico he's allowed to do whatever he pleases. It seems to me the only thing that's changed over the years about David Walker is where he does business. Thanks for joining us today on San Carlos TV. If you'd like to receive more special reports and exposés such as this one, simply go to our website, sancarlos.tv, and sign up for the newsletter. I'm Vince. Thanks for watching, and con el favor de Dios, I do hope to see you next week.